Well, it's week 5 of the LCS with coverage brought to you by Alienware. I'm joined right now by Meteos from 100 Thieves, fresh off their victory against Golden Guardians. So first off, that game seemed pretty one-sided. What do you think of how that game went down? I feel like a lot of people were looking at just Golden Guardians and feeling pretty disappointed in their play.
Well, I think that it was a pretty good game for us. Obviously not perfect, but it's just been a process, I guess. Every week we're just trying to focus on more things. And I think this week we did a pretty good job focusing on the stuff we need to focus on. Just basically we were trying to just play more aggressive because we've kind of been in a bit of a passive mindset. It's more about, everyone trying to individually be more aggressive. It's like, okay, guys, even if you're not in the perfect situation for yourself, like, there's still more you can do. Try to pressure the enemy team, make them feel it a bit. So I think we did a bit better this week. We didn't win yesterday, but today I think it went fairly well.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Mark on the desk, I think, talks a lot about the soup in the middle of the LCS of just all the teams kind of battling it out for position. It feels like in some ways the league has been very competitive this year, with the exception of, obviously, Cloud9 and CLG. What do you think of the other teams that you've been facing?
I think it's kind of the same in the beginning of every spring split, right, where most teams like rebuilding. And generally the teams that don't change as many pieces are the ones that do well in the beginning of the year, at least, just because, you have some of that chemistry already that you can keep building on. And you just sort of like understand how each other works. You don't have to go through the whole process of like getting on the same page about things, because with any given team, they're going to see the same situation in slightly different ways. And once you learn your teammates' tendencies and stuff like that, I think you can, improve faster. So, C9 did make a bunch of changes, but it's still like the same. They have a lot of the same players. It's like Blabber was splitting time before. They got Licorice, Niski, and then they just brought in a really good bot lane, same coaches and stuff. So C9 definitely just looking miles ahead of everyone else. And then I think every other team's just kind of figuring it out week to week. Sometimes a team will have a really good week. Sometimes they'll try something new and fall flat. Yeah. So for me, I was kind of giving this analogy to my team where I don't care too much about standings, especially during spring split, because I was kind of relating it to like TFT or auto chess, where it's like during the week when you're scrimming and you're just learning all the new concepts and stuff, that's kind of like you like upgrading your board, like buying more units and stuff. And so even if you're losing rounds, as long as your board's still getting stronger, you can get down to 1 HP in TFT and then still win the whole thing as long as you have the strongest board. So that's kind of the mindset I think that we have. It's just like, okay, it's not like we're playing against noob teams. We're still going to make mistakes. Maybe we won't win every single game. But as long as we keep just building on the fundamentals and like core concepts and just get everyone on the same level of understanding about it, I think that we'll keep getting better. So hopefully we're just able to work on that and not have too many games where we just roll over. But we have had a lot of those, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, what is it that separates a game like today from some of the games where you've struggled?
I think it can be a multitude of things. I think a big one that we were kind of focusing on is just being too scared. For instance, we've looked at a lot of C9 games to look at how they handle situations, and so there's multiple ways to look at something, right? So it's like, say that their jungler is missing and he has, it's like a Rek'Sai with flash available so he can gank anybody, right? There's 2 ways to play it. You can have every single lane play really aggressively, and then he can't gank all 3 lanes at the same time. Or you can have everyone play super scared, like hug your turret, and then you're kind of just getting ganked by a ghost at that point. It's like, just the threat of something happening is kind of like making you do nothing. And we were kind of doing that a lot. So something we've really tried to been focused on in practice, just like, okay, just because there's a threat does not mean that they're going to execute on it perfectly or that it's even going to be resolved right now. Maybe we can get more out of it. So that's probably the biggest thing we've been working on, and why some of our games look like us just kind of doing nothing and rolling over.
What do you think of? Is it that situation that's making C9 win, that they just are able to take advantage on the macro level of all these different decisions and really lead it ahead, or is it the individual play? Like, what do you think is keeping them so far ahead?
I think it's just a little of everything. All their laners seem really good, and then they're just all super in sync with what's going on. They kind of have a really similar playstyle to their games, where they just play for a pushing bot lane. Their bot lane almost always wins, and then Blabber like solos dragon at 5 minutes. At 8 minutes they take Herald, and then they just keep taking dragons on respawns. And between all that, they're just looking for any and every fight they can take. They don't seem to worry that much like about, hey, maybe we'll lose this fight. I don't think they've ever opted to not fight. So they just play extremely aggressively, and I think they like get advantages through lane as well. In their Game vs Immortals today, it was like Elise ganked bottom, and then they won that 2v3 and immediately transferred it into a dragon. So stuff like that, I think it's just like setting in my head.
Well, since we're at the halfway point of the split, what do you see for 100 Thieves moving forward? Because you mentioned trying to get down to or being okay going down to 1 HP as long as you win, but you also have to make it into playoffs, right? So I don't know what your expectations are and where you think you'll sort of land, especially as you move into and closer to playoffs.
It's really hard to say. Hopefully, we make it far. That's the goal, obviously, but it's not only really relying on us. It has to do with how well the other teams are playing too. But all we can do is just keep trying our hardest. Hopefully, like, not get like lazy or unfocused or anything like that, and we'll just see how far we can get. A big part of it's like I said before, how the other teams do as well. So it's not just us against ourselves. That's part of it, but I don't know how they're going to do. Sure. But hopefully we'll make it all the way.
And then I just wanted to touch on this too, because I think you might have mentioned in an earlier interview with me, or maybe with somebody else, that you kind of have like a veteran leadership role now with this team. How has that been for the past couple of weeks as you guys have been getting things going? Because I thought of it when you were talking about the TFT mentality. Do you find yourself frequently like talking to the guys after they lose and sort of trying to help get everybody to a good spot?
I think that's part of it. Definitely just my experience is helpful for, improving the team, stuff like that. But I think it's kind of a team effort on some level where sometimes if it feels like too much burden is on one person to try to like shot call everything, it can affect like that person's play a lot. So I don't want to be like the micromanager or anything like that. I think the best teams are always the ones where like every single person is aware of what's going on and can see their own way of fitting into it. So that's a lot of what we've been focusing on. But I try to help anyone who's like struggling and pointing out things in our games I think we could be doing better. So I think I definitely have like a bit of a leadership position, but I prefer to just be able to focus on my own stuff.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to say to any of the 100 Thieves fans out there?
Thank you for supporting us. Yeah, I don't know. We're just going to keep working. And thanks for sticking with us through the fat loss streaks.
They're not that fat. There are teams that have fatter loss streaks than you guys.
Yeah, but that was like 4 or something. That started feeling quite bad.
Yes. Yeah. It does feel bad, I think, whenever teams... Imagine if it was longer than 4.
That's what she said.
You can check out the rest of my coverage of all things esports right here on my YouTube channel. Hey, don't go anywhere, because maybe you haven't subscribed yet, and if you haven't subscribed, you need to do that. And if you are subscribed, you need to hit the bell so that when I post 3 interviews in a single day, you get a notification for every single one. By the way, you might notice, as I'm gesturing, this really great watch that I'm wearing. You see how I did that? You thought it was a pitch for subscribing, but it's actually a pitch for the watch, which is made by Movement, as well as these glasses. There's a link in the video description. They're an amazing sponsor that supports our LCS coverage here, and they make this whole thing possible because, let's face it, LA costs are crazy. Anyway, thanks to Movement. Also, thanks to Alienware for being my sponsor and for sponsoring so much of what we do. Both great sponsors with great products that you should go buy because that helps me out.